Welcome back, everyone, to the Flyin podcast. We're here again tonight on a Monday night recording right before the U.S. men's national team plays Uruguay, possibly to maybe get kicked out of Copa America. I know this is FC Cincinnati podcast, but we're getting prepared for that game coming up. Tonight, we have a lot to talk about, though, in FC Cincinnati land. We had match day 23 in the MLS. We had a 1-0 win against FC Dallas, so we're going to give you our impressions of this game. Cards of the week, jersey swaps, and then towards the second half, we have a lot to talk about. All-Star game was announced with the rosters. FCC 2 keeps rolling along, and then we have 2 games this coming week, so it's going to be a very, very busy week for FC Cincinnati. Sam and Zach are with me tonight. Sam, how you doing?
Doing good, doing good. Got another dub. Unfortunately, Miami did as well. So kind of a yin and a yang there every single week here, but we play them here on Saturday, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I actually just ate almost a whole pint of ice cream before hopping on. So there's my dinner for you. But honestly, I feel great besides that. I think, going into, another heavy week, I'm happy we came out with a win this past weekend. So I'm looking forward to hopefully another 2 wins.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like we keep rolling along. We have international soccer to watch. We have FCC to watch. We have FCC 2 to watch. Going into this game, I know the big talk from last week was injury concerns. And I mean, everyone in the city felt it. There was just all this talk about who was going to be available, who was going to play. In this game that we had against FC Dallas down in a very hot environment, actually in Dallas. We ended up rolling out Celentano. We had Yamil Assad, Murphy, Keller, Yedlin, Orellano, Buka, Kubo, Acosta, Dado, and Kelsey, which honestly, like reading that lineup is so different than what we've seen, throughout the year. It was kind of funny to read that out. But yeah, the injury concerns, with Nick being out, he, I believe, had his surgery today for his leg. They announced that Matt Miazga is going to be out for the season as well. Baird was still coming back, and it sounds like as of today, he made his full training with the first team. So that's good news, and we'll get to that later. But in this game, Sam, what did you see with the lineup?
Yeah, as far as the lineup, I mean, like you said, it always sucks, not having a deep squad, especially when you look at that bench and knew, who our options were, after. But Obi being out, Kubo slides into that center mid role makes sense because there's no, Pinto as well. But yeah, I think other lineup wise, you put Dotto up top with Kelsey, which Dotto had a pretty solid game besides one missed chance. If he didn't have that missed chance, to be honest with you, I know we'll talk about it later, but he probably would have been my jersey swap. But yeah, as far as lineup, I thought we looked as good as we could with the players that we had, right?
Yeah, I mean, biggest question for me was going into it was the back line, obviously. Interesting, having Kubo there with and Wobodo out, Obi. So it's good to see Obi is still useful in the midfield like that. Being that destroyer that we always love about him from the past season. But also it's nice to see Assad, getting those starting minutes as well. I'm really happy to see him. I know he was, it maybe took him a while to get going and stuff, but I'm glad to see him getting the starting role. Over a couple other people. But yeah, back line, biggest question. But yeah, honestly, I looking at it, I didn't have like really much to say. I was kind of nervous, but I seeing Murphy and Keller and who was it? Who's the last one again? Sorry,
Yedlin, I think.
Yedlin, and seeing him in the past matches, Yedlin in the back, it made me a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, and I feel like, honestly, we're relying heavily on his leadership. I mean, you have Kip Keller and Murphy who aren't as experienced. Yamil Assad's played back there, but then you have Orellano on the right. So playing in a different way obviously shines in this game. I want to highlight a guy that we shouted out early on in the week was Nico Benalcazar, a young FCC2 guy that actually does make his short-term loan on the bench for us. So he didn't get into the game, but It was somebody that I had been wanting to look out for and to see if he was going to get some minutes. He played with NYCFC last year. It was nice to see that he joined the team. So that was kind of interesting to see. But as we go into the game, it was a hot one, like we mentioned, the hottest ever, I think, in FCC's history. And I think all of our impressions from the beginning of the game, I think that started to weigh on the team early. Sam, what did you see?
Yeah, I think we're all going to start out with that, like you said, boring. Um, whether or not that was impacted by, the heat or not, and the decision making, not really sure there. But um, I know the only legit chances that we had that first half was Orellano and FC Dallas. FC Dallas had some chances, and Orellano had some for us. That was about it. I know he had the chance. What was it? I think he had the curler off the
Mm-hmm.
crossbar, and then he had another one that was a near miss. But gosh, nobody else was doing it. Like, I think this was an off game from Lucho. You could see. I mean, when I say the heat wasn't impacting us, Lucho looked like one of those guys that the heat was kind of getting to him a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that. I think I was looking at the stat sheet, at the end of the match. I think he was honestly the lowest ranked or lowest scored player on our team. So, I mean, that might say something about it. But honestly, I mean, you know, it was like you said, it was a quiet, really quiet first 30 minutes or so. Honestly, the one thing that I wanted to touch on was the Kubo in the midfield, right? At first, I know we're not bothered because we're used to seeing him there. But in the 17th minute, we see that first yellow card. With Victor Rivas, and knowing Kubo, he doesn't like he's not really a defender, so he's not going to pick his battles very well. So seeing that first yellow so early was, I think, what was to come. As Sam may touch on a little bit later, but I my personal opinion, yellows should never be given out in the first 30 minutes. I think you need to let them play for a little bit, get the get the vibe of the match, the flow of the match to, take hold, but very slow first half.
Yeah, I would echo what you're both saying. To Sam, I think your point about Lucho, would we be saying something different if Dotto finishes his chance, later on in the match? Like I had mentioned to you when we were watching it, it literally takes him two chances, and you're like, man, he's had a good game, and he shines in those moments. But consistently, like that was the only thing. But I would say like overall, I don't know. When we go to
We're
Kubo,
over
Zach,
here talking about first half impressions,
I
man. Come
know,
on.
I know. I'm getting too ahead of myself here, but when I talk about Kubo in the first half, Zach, to your point, like he was playing physical in the midfield, and honestly, we didn't have Obi there, but Kubo made some decisive tackles, and even on a yellow card, like that's what was most impressive to me is that he still had the confidence and the know-withal to not make another one, and get another yellow in that moment, which I think him and Buka actually did pretty well together. So that's kind of what I saw at first. The other thing I wanted to kind of point out was, with one of the Orellano chances actually was a beautiful ball that was weighted through by Dado. If you see that chemistry on that run through on the diagonal, Orellano puts it just wide. Could he have curled it with his left or slotted away with his right? I mean, that's easy for us to say. He misses one wide, then in the 45th minute, he hits the crossbar. And then obviously later on he scores. So it was just building in that standpoint from him. He was obviously the one shining player that we saw. I do want to give some credit to DeAndre Yedlin, though, even early on, with like you guys had mentioned, a lot of the chances they had was just keeping the guys together and saying, hey, I know we're getting kind of rattled in this situation, but let's keep it. And ultimately, we get a clean sheet, which props to him. But as we go towards the middle of the game, Sam, what'd you see?
Yeah, as far as the middle of the game, right out of the gate, right out of half, we see Orlando take on one defender and take him all the way down into the box and slot that goal into the left corner there. Phenomenal strike. I mean, I think you see the rest of the players going, I don't think anybody was calling for the ball, but they were just kind of like waiting, and then he scores, and Lucho's like, "Hey!" And then Orellano runs right past him. But yeah, I thought that was a phenomenal strike by Orellano. But as far as the rest of the middle of the game, the yellow cards didn't come in bunches like Zach was talking about. I believe both sides together, there was 4 yellow cards given in under 10 minutes there, and in like a 10-minute stretch, there was 4 given. 3 for FC and then 1 for Dallas. But yeah, the other chance during the middle of the game there, Powell makes a good run down the left side. Decent shot on goal, about what you're probably going to get from that angle. However, an even better counterattack from Dallas, and we got off so lucky. Sebastian Lletget just doesn't put enough curl onto it, and it catches the outside of the post, and we're just like, okay, deep breath, deep breath.
No, that's actually funny you say it, deep breath. That was kind of at the point where I was like, at this point in the game, one mistake is going to be a goal. Like you could tell, like I think it was maybe in the 60th minute or 70th minute when that happened, right? I think at that point you could tell like Yedlin, I mean, he's been playing 90 minutes constantly, and you could tell like he was running with his head down trying to like catch up to the player, right? Catch up to Sebastian. And it's like it one mistake could change the whole outcome of the match. So I thought it was great job on that back line in Yedlin, and to keep their head in the game and stay up. But really, I mean, we got to go back to the Orellano goal, because I mean, as the commentator said, his cultured left foot. I don't know if you guys caught that, but definitely a cultured left foot. That foot's been everywhere. um, I think really the whole at this point, all the rest of the highlights are yellow cards. So I think that it kind of explained what the middle of the match felt like to me.
Yeah, good point. I mean, it seemed like the ref kind of dictated some of the play in that standpoint. And does that change how the players get some freedom or not in those moments? But my opinion on the Orellano one is very much shades of Arjen Robben, of Bayern Munich, of the Dutch. Played on the right wing, cut in on his left, would whip it into the back post. And I mean, as a keeper, there's nothing you can do about that. So we've seen some just beautiful shots from him. Obviously, the one from midfield, the one obviously, and this one where he curls around the keeper. I hope that he continues to do that, because we honestly really haven't had a player that can create that chance from that distance that I can think of. I know Barrial did a decent job with some of them, but I haven't seen a player be able to take guys on and create those chances like he has. And so I think that was pretty impressive. I'm going to give you, by the end of the game, I'll give you my impression on it. Just being able to close it out. So again, for Pat to say, all right, let's look at the bench and see who we have. Santos, Pupenza, we're looking at Halsey. Sam, I think you had even tweeted out at one point, look at the back line and how we never would have even thought that, it'd be Halsey. And I think it was Yedlin at that point, Murphy, Powell. I mean, it was like a mismatch.
Foster, yeah.
Foster, yeah. Shout out to him for getting his first FCC appearance. But just to be able to kind of like weather the storm in some ways is how I would say it. I mean, it didn't look pretty, but a win's a win on the road. And we would be remiss to not shout out Roman, for having some good saves too, because I felt like he did keep us in it. In games prior, he may have given up some that he could have saved, but in this one, he does a pretty decent job, I would say.
Hey, and Zach, the no clean sheet streak is now over. So you can you can tell me I'm not keeping track of it anymore, right? So last pod he was like, "Hey, we can't keep track of stuff like that." But as far as the end of the game for me, we had a couple chances to put it away. To Ryan's point earlier, Lucho and Kelsey up top were kind of messing with the defense and putting pressure on their defense, and we have which it was interesting, the ruling on it. You get an offside, Kelsey puts the goal away, and it's like, what? Wait, but there wasn't possession, nobody passed it. But I guess even a deflection off of your own player can be counted as an offside. But then you have the other chance where Lucho intercepts the ball and dices up the defense, like Ryan was talking about earlier, literally does a spin, passes it perfectly to Dotto, and he tries to pass it into the back of the net and just misses wide left. Very frustrating for him, I'm sure. But the other thing I wanted to touch on at the end of the game here were this just two stupid yellow cards at the end of the game from Celentano and Lucho, just completely unnecessary. The game's pretty much put away at that point. Celentano gets one for wasting time. Like, I think Lucho's was like in the 4th minute of extra time or something like that. So at that point, it's like, guys, come on.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. I mean, I hate watching another team do it to me, so I couldn't imagine what other teams, us doing it to them. So I guess you got to put it on the other hand, right? But really, I thought, at the beginning of the game, the lineup looked like what it would be in the second half with 10 minutes remaining. Like it just looked so, even at the beginning of the game, it looked so mismatched. And then, by the end, I mean, you've got all these players that getting first time minutes with Isaiah Foster. You're getting, Halsey and Powell back to center back. You're all these different changes, and then us being able to keep it together. Honestly, I'm very surprised we didn't at least draw. In my opinion, I think this win was really big for this group of guys at this
Yeah, I
point.
mean, it has to weigh a lot on confidence just to be able to say, hey, we can win with no matter what we have. And it's next man up. I mean, Alvis Powell was playing left wing back, I think, is by the end of the game where he was at, like in that chance, Sam, that he created. But final impressions, I mean, all in all, 6 road wins in a row. That's tied for the second best in MLS history, which is, again, just impressive that we've been able to do what we've been doing. And then again, like I mentioned before, the temperature just being super, super hot for them, just to be able to grind it out and to get a win in that environment too. I'm not going to say it was like the best fan environment to play in, but at least the weather had definitely weighed on them. I don't think we had played down in Texas since 2021, I'm pretty sure, when we played Houston. Sam, any final impressions from the game?
No, I mean, I'll touch on it a little bit later, but I did think it was pretty cool that FCC now improves to be undefeated against the Western Conference this season. So once again, back-to-back seasons where FC is kind of dominating the Western Conference. Hopefully that continues the rest of the season, and move on to the next 2 games this week.
I like a good stat while we're on top. Honestly, you guys said it great. I mean, like I said, considering the lineup, I'm glad we pulled out a win and move on to bigger and better things with DC.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all in all, with this win, 13-4-3, 2 points behind Inter Miami, but with a game in hand. So Saturday's game is going to be crucial, and we'll talk about that later. Before we do go to a break, I think let's just hop into some cards of the week here first, though, Sam. I want to hear, because I think it ties into what we had seen in this game. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, my card of the week is going to be FCC card accumulation. Guys, the past 2 games have been ugly. They really have. If you go look at it, we have had 14 cards in the past 2 games for FC Cincinnati. Yes, the refs have been soft, but half of those as well have been stupid mistakes. Just the way we're playing. Not sure, once again, if it's just exhaustion, as we've had to back-to-back games. It was also very hot. But we have to be smarter not to get any more cards. Can't afford to lose any more players due to stupidity.
Yeah, you hit that on the head. I mean, coming towards the later half of the season, or the later third, I should say, card accumulation starts adding up, and people out for the 5th yellow. I mean, it's going to be weighing on the rest of the team as well because you're missing those starters. So other people have to step up that aren't usually there to step up. So while that's good to see other players get minutes, it's also, results have to happen.
As much as you wanted to hate on some of the guys for what they did at the end of the game, that's just the way that sometimes seeing how a game goes. You just gotta play in the mind of the ref a little bit. But Victor Rivas is not a fantastic referee and does not have a good track history with FC Cincinnati. So knowing that going in, maybe we should have weighed that a little bit more. If we're gonna lose guys with injuries, let's not make us lose players from card accumulation too. So I like that card. That's a good point. Zach, what do you have?
Well, I was going to say maybe I think Victor Rivas should stick to being an aquatics coordinator.
Was that in his prior history?
That's his part-time job or full-time job. That's not reffing.
Is it really? I didn't know that.
I had to Google the man because I was so curious how old he was. So he just looks like a child out there compared to the rest of the people. So I was just curious, but nonetheless, that's what's
Stick
on
to the
his
sea
resume.
over the land.
My card of the week though, it's starting to dawn on me and come to the realization that this transfer window is not going to be, in my opinion, it's not going to be very exciting. Um, just due to the change in priorities with injuries. I know most people probably don't want to see another CB signed because that is like obviously our priority now, but also it's not an exciting signing. Obviously, everybody wanted to score more goals in the second half of the season, so it's going to be interesting going into the transfer window, seeing how things play out and where we're going to put our money, basically.
Yeah, I'll comment on that. I'll go next. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. Nick having surgery today, depending on how that goes and his timeline is definitely going to weigh on where we go, and we'll chat on that later. But yeah, I mean, prior to this and without the injuries that we had in the last 2 weeks, like you're thinking for the moon. You're going to every possible best player out there in the world, and you're saying we need a striker. And now I don't know. I mean, I still think they'll go for somebody, but to your point, is it not the same as what we had? I don't know. It sounds like the ambition is still there. It's just about in what way are we going to attempt to do that? Is it now or is it in the off season? That's the question.
Yeah, I think with this transfer window, I, gosh, you could see it going a million ways, honestly. You would think the priority would be a center back, but maybe they believe in, our bench and end up going striker, right? It depends on kind of what Chris is feeling, to see if, okay, I honestly, I think to Ryan's point, are we almost rooting for the U.S. men's national team to lose so that way Miles can come back, right? That's like I think that's a big factor of what happens, in the game against Uruguay is do we have to get a center back if we're getting one back, right? So it's you don't want to make the decision and then oh shoot, well we would have been fine.
We're getting one in. It's just a matter of two or what caliber of a player, what spend, do we have, and what roster space do we have? Because if you put Nick on the season ending list, I mean, that opens up even more money. So there's a lot more options. Guys, my card of the week is a funny one. So for those probably listening or watching the game, you heard some Super Mario noises in the stadium. FC Dallas had their video game night. So for every probably tackle, yellow card, substitution, goal, they apparently were doing the Super Mario dying soundbite, which in the stadium, after probably the first 5 or 6 yellow cards that were given out, that got pretty annoying, I'm sure. But I really wanted them at the end of the game when we won just to play that, just to kind of insult them or have somebody on our bench just get it on their phone or something to play it. But I thought that was kind of funny. But that was going to be my card for this week.
Yeah, I know. First we heard of it was obviously like we heard it over the broadcast, but I believe Carter Chapley said something about it as well. Kind of similar to Ryan's take as far as, yeah, this is getting old.
In short. No, honestly, I think the video game theme's kind of sweet, but in a way, I mean, after so many, like, I think that's why he probably gave so many yellow cards looking back. Let's be honest.
There's
He enjoyed
different video games. There's different video games.
Victor Rivas, big fan of Super Mario Bros.
exactly.
Somebody go check that out. On the flip side, Sam, I want to hear your jersey swap for this week, though.
Yeah, my jersey swap of the week is going to be Kubo. Guy slots in once again wherever we need him. Took that center midfield role for this game. Led FC Cincinnati in the game with 4 tackles. Led the team in blocks with 5. And then, like we had talked about, he was in the midfield this game doing all the dirty work because Obi wasn't there to do it. So he, like I said, does whatever needs to be done. I'm just curious going into a match or match week with 2 matches, right? What kind of role is he going to play? We've got a match on Wednesday and a match on Saturday. So I'm very curious to see where he's going to play.
I think they're just gonna put him on the roster, and then whoever is not performing at that time, he just slots right there. Let's be honest. I think that's how Pat's gonna take this one. Um, no, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Kubo was my secondary if you hadn't taken it. So everything you said plus I mean, it's Kubo. I mean, he's the best versatile player in MLS at the moment.
Somebody had mentioned online today, and I thought it was funny that, we would love to see Kubo in the All-Star game, but what position do you put him in? You can't just put him in one position. So he occupies all of them. So maybe that's why they didn't consider it. I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, great shout. Kubo had a great game. I think, like, to your point, in the next couple games, especially, they should have a betting line to say, where is Kubo going to play in this match? And then they'll give you the odds for it. So the breakdown of the player would be funny just for the position's sake. But Zach, what about you? What was your jersey swap for this week?
Yeah, I mean, really, besides um, Kubo, I mean, I was thinking, like I think you're gonna talk one, but I had to go with Buka. I think both Kubo and Buka, like you said, Ryan earlier, they're just such a great match together in the midfield. So I think seeing Buka, he's always very active in the match. He had 7 recoveries. He had 100% passing, 43 passes. And in that position, that's, in my opinion, I think that's probably one of the toughest positions to have the most accurate passes because you're going forward and backward. So 90 minutes in that heat too. I mean, give him props. He's one of our most active players, and I think he deserves a shout.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And honestly, like, this year, by every single game, he impresses me more and more. And it's like quietly, it's some things that you don't always get like the accolades for. He doesn't have the most goals, assists, but like you said, the passing was there. And honestly, just to kind of have a calming presence in the midfield too, because Kubo's running around everywhere. So Buka kind of has to occupy that space that Obi usually does. But I felt like with Buka, what was I going to say about him? I would love to see some outside shots from him like we saw earlier on in the season. It's just finding the space for him to exploit that, I think, is what's been difficult. I want to see his link up play with Kelsey. I felt like Kelsey actually didn't have as many touches this game, but I would really want to see how he does moving forward with connecting the lines between defense and the forward. So that's something to look out for. He sprayed the ball well to the width this game, but just connecting with the striker is the next step for me.
I can only imagine what Buka was going through, with this 95-degree weather, and he's like, what is this? Like, from the Czech Republic, he's like, what is this? This is crazy.
Yeah,
That's
good
a good
point.
point.
Yeah. My jersey swap was Orellano. So, I mean, easy one to pick. He had the goal, he had the game winner. The guy's got 5 goals this year. He's done really well playing left wing back, now right wing back. If you go and listen to Pat Noonan's conference call afterwards, he basically says that Orellano's convinced him that, he should be playing right wing back. And I think that's true. The way that he's been there and filling that spot in well. He's second in the team in chances created this season behind Lucho. and I think is best in the team with dribbling at opponents and successful dribbles too. So he's done really well in that position, and we needed him to step up, and he could have had possibly 2 or 3 in this game.
Yeah, I think Luca is just he's amazing. Week after week, he does it. He gets it done. Another stat for you, Ryan. He became the first player on the current FCC roster to score a goal against FC Dallas in their career. I was astounded that nobody else, not Lucho, not even like I don't know Matt or
Corey
Miles or
Barrett
like
or anybody,
anybody,
yeah,
even Yedlin. Yedlin's been in the MLS for a long time.
right.
Nobody's scored a goal against FC Dallas. He's the man to do it. But yeah, Luca continues to amaze, and he'll probably do something amazing this week if it's Wednesday or Saturday.
I just don't want him to go back to Vasco da Gama. I just want to keep
Yeah.
him forever.
How can we sign this guy? I mean, like without making it a DP signing, but I think we got to try to hold on. I'm glad we have the option. We saw Mascaras last year alone, but without the option this year, we have the option to buy. I think you have to trigger that. We lost Barriel before. You can't lose Orellano in this one. Somewhat related to what Luca's doing, and my trivia question kind of goes along with this. So Luca has 5 goals now in his first season with FCC, but who holds the record for most goals in their first season with FC Cincinnati? This is in the MLS play only.
You said in MLS history?
Correct, for FCC.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Lucho.
All right, Zach, what about you?
I think I'm gonna go Brenner.
All right. So wait until the end of the episode, and we will give you the answer. We'll be right back. Hey, FC Cincinnati fans. We are pumped to share our new sponsor, Peak Cocktails.
I'm sipping on the passion fruit margarita, which is so spicy, and it makes me feel like I'm on the beach.
Ooh, that sounds great. I'm drinking the Blood Orange Spritz, which has a great subtle ginger flavor coming from its scientifically formulated recipe to promote exercise recovery, enhance relaxation, and support a better night's sleep.
Ryan, that's exactly why I love them. Their cocktails are designed to fit seamlessly into your health conscious lifestyle, giving you the enjoyment of a delicious adult drink without the downsides of alcohol.
Guys, next time you are looking for that post-workout drink or an afternoon pick-me-up, grab a Peak Cocktail. Visit them at www.peakcocktails.com and use the code FLYINLION at checkout to get 20% off your first order. Zach, enjoy your drink. Welcome back, everyone. We are excited about an FC Cincinnati win against FC Dallas this past week and have a lot to bring you for the second half of the episode. We're going to be chatting about the MLS All-Star game here first. They just announced today, boys, that we have 3 players. Lucho, Miles Robinson, and Luca Orellano were named to this MLS All-Star squad. In our opinion, and based on our vote, it should have been every single FC Cincinnati player that fills the lineup in Columbus. That would have been hilarious. But that is not what happened. Same as last year, though, we had 3 guys that are representing our team. So pretty excited to see that. Sam, why don't you roll us through what this means for some of the players?
Yeah, I mean, what it means for some of the guys, Robinson, this is his second All-Star appearance. Last time was in 2021 with Atlanta. Obviously, Orellano is new to the MLS, so this is his first All-Star appearance. Lucho, this is actually his 3rd time in his career being named to the MLS All-Star game. That actually ties him for the most of any player on the 2024 All-Star roster, with 3 other players. He's also the only player in club history to have been named to multiple MLS All-Star rosters. So a lot of kudos to the guys getting called up.
How does this affect Miles, Because I mean the All-Star game is July 24th. He could be still with men's national team. I think that's gonna be a first time pulling someone.
Yeah, I don't know about that. It depends on if they make it through, I guess. That would mean that we were like semifinals or finals by that point, which is
It's
not
gonna happen.
looking fantastic. But yeah, no, great shout. I think the All-Star game is always an interesting topic every year. You know, the way that we wanted it set up was not against the Liga MX and just do East versus West. I think we can all agree upon that. But you know, how do we weight the voting for this? You know, is a lot of the guys are coaches picks. I know obviously they do fan picks as well. Um, and honestly, the team is pretty stacked. If you look at it, it is probably the right call on the people that they chose. But it is telling that I think, was it Orellano was the one that was a coach pick? And second year in a row that we've had a left wing back or a wing back that's been selected, Barrial, you know, obviously last year too. So if this is any indication of what a best 11 of the MLS might look like at the end of the year, we're in pretty good shape, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, 12 players via fan vote, 16 via the head coach, who is Wilfred Nancy, of the host team, and then the commissioner gets to select 2 players as well. So that's, I mean, no wonder the crew has the most players with 5. I'm just gonna throw that out there. A little bit of probably bias there.
Yeah,
Home
that's
field
bogus.
bias. It's actually the most since the Sounders in 2021. I believe they had 5 as well. Um, not cool. Not cool.
Yeah, that's bizarre. I can't name the like fifth player that that they should be having for the MLS All Star. I mean, it's interesting that you know Nazi chose Oriana. That means I mean he'd be looking at the same kind of player. So, I mean, truthfully, a lot of people probably look at Oriano as a forward and wouldn't even look at him as a left back. So or right back for that matter. So I think it's interesting that that's 2 seasons in a row where Cincinnati have had best 11 back wing back, I guess left or right back, however you want to look at it. But I think that's pretty telling that Cincinnati's able to develop those kind of players.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and honestly, if it weren't for Matt's injury, Miazga probably would have been called up as well, and that could have been 4. I don't know if you have Wobodo
Yedlin
as
as well.
5 or yeah, Yedlin even as well. So there's a lot of good opportunities for our guys. This game will be, like you mentioned, Sam. I think you said July 24th. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what Zach said. Yeah.
Okay.
20.
Yeah, so next month we'll chat about that a little bit more as we get closer, but was nice to see. Now I believe the voting will be started for who's the captain for the team, which Lucho was last year. So go out and vote for Lucho to be the captain for this year. I think that'd be pretty cool to see. As we move along, though, so FC Cincinnati 2 also had a big win against New England Revolution. They got some, I would call it revenge win against the Revs too. Sold out game at NKU Stadium, which was pretty awesome. We had Lucho there again. A couple other FCC guys were around. Just a beautiful day for it. Another dominant performance by our forward, Kenji. A Dayton guy, again, biased a little bit there, but his 4th goal of June, actually, future Cameroonian national player. Possibly that would be an interesting shout. I like that one. He's probably got to make some first team minutes first there, but hopefully he starts to get some training time with the team. That'd be cool to see. We're still second in the standings. We're behind Philly, but we have the most wins with 10. So again, it's been impressive what they've been doing. Shout out to Tyrone Marshall. He was named the middle of the season. I believe, what would that be? The MLS Next Pro, like best coach of the midseason or whatever. But yeah, he's
Mhm.
done a really good job with them this year, bringing in talent, developing talent, seeing a lot of the guys from the second team in the first team. So that's been impressive. Anything you guys real quickly wanted to comment on that?
No, I think once again FCC2 continues to kill it. And once again, like we've been saying, they've been finding different people to do it. It seems like every game they've got a new goal scorer, somebody that's hot.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see Chris Albright's, vision coming to life. First couple, years with him at the captain of the ship, it kind of lackluster, but it takes time to build that academy up. So, um, I mean, last year I think they were middle of the table. Now this year, I mean, they're sitting up there with the best of the best academies, like Philly, right? So it's good to see that the FCC twos where they're at in their development and growth.
Yeah, I mean, great points. It honestly leads to a very interesting situation. What we'll move on to now is how the main team, first team roster looks. And, if you had to like say, I posed this question online, what's one former FCC player that you would want to bring back for this year's team? And I mean, to your guys' point, like, is it a academy guy now? Do we give, these youngsters a shot? We had a lot of interesting answers. Sam, I want to hear yours first and your reasoning.
Yeah, my one former player I'd bring back to this squad. I know I saw a lot of people online saying the same, so just gonna say it for all of them. Our son, or your son, Mascara, at it, for his time with FC Cincinnati, 3 goals, 1 assist on loan, from Wolves with us. His playoff goal was one of the best moments in FC Cincinnati history. And then not only did he have, the speed and the strength, but he was able to track down and knock opponents off their line. I'm just saying, guys, he's only sitting at a $6 million evaluation right now. So if you think McKinney at 15 or 14 mil is expensive, we should see how Yerson's doing over there with Wolves.
I mean, I can't complain because I think, is probably our best center back that we've had, in my opinion. I think he's where he's at versus where Matt was at the same age. Can't compare. I think Muscara is way ahead of where Matt is. I think Muscara is going to have a huge career in the future.
Yeah, his talent is immense. And honestly, to see like Mascara next to Miles Robinson would just be incredible. Zach, I'm going to turn to you next. Who'd you have?
Honestly, this was really tough. Trying to fit it to the like what we need right now. All things considered, it's kind of funny because we all picked like defenders, which I thought was hilarious. But I went with Greg Garza. Left back. I think he'd fit in really well on the left wing back side. I've always wondered what he would be without his injury proneness.
Mhm.
Um, I think he would be incredible under Pat Noonan, in my opinion. Some of the things that you saw, like when we played against Atlanta, when he was on Atlanta. I mean, I feel like he was everywhere. He was one of their better, backline defenders, and he would really win up a lot. So seeing him under Pat Noonan would be amazing.
Yeah, great point. I was going to say he'd do really well in a left wing back spot. That's a good shout.
Yeah, solid shout. Another guy with U.S. men's national team experience as well.
I went with Justin Hoyt. I would love to see, Justin out wide, on the right. He's wide open there. He's still open, rumor is. But yeah, I think Hoyt would have been able to play center back out wide. He just brings this leadership, experience, versatility. Probably wouldn't have the legs, but like Yedlin, able to be like serviceable or even just, a solid presence off the bench or somebody to kind of guide these young players into their careers, which I think would be cool. I wanted to shout out some fan mentions. I think Jeff Coe was one of them. He said Manuel Ledesma, playmaker and very unselfish. I totally agree with that one. I think that'd be really cool to see Lucho and Ledesma together. That'd be awesome. We had, again, a lot of mascaras, I think was the common thread, but the other one that was mentioned was Harrison Delbridge and Forrest Lasso. What do you guys think of Harrison Delbridge in the MLS? We never got to see that.
Yeah, I think bringing back some of those USL guys, obviously some of them just at the time didn't fit. And then you look back and you go, well, maybe, if we would have waited a little bit longer or actually saw what that 2019 squad was going to be, we would have rather had, some nostalgia rather than lackluster performances with new people we didn't know. So always funny to look back.
Didn't Forrest Lasso get some MLS minutes?
He did. Yeah, I was just more going with Delbridge to say he
Oh,
never did, but Lasso was definitely on that first year.
yeah, I was gonna say he'd be a good shout too. I don't forget about him just because he has an awesome name, but he's definitely a standout player. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I can't really remember much of Delbridge because those early USL days kind of get lost on me sometimes.
The glory days, Zach, you can't forget those days. But honestly, so the reason why I brought this question up and I thought this was interesting, Tyler Blackett still lives in Cincinnati, guys. And there is some rumor like, is he still around? Is he available? He's a free agent right now. He was in the championship last year in England. He's a defender with under, I think, Pat Noonan 2 years ago. Somebody that might be able to slide in for, 5, 6 months, give us some minutes out there. Very interesting. If you go look at his social media, he's been around. So I don't know if that's telling or not. The other one, like we mentioned last time, was Matt Hedges. Sam, with his relationship there. Any news from you? Did you text Matt? Did you give him a shout?
I've got no news. However, I have heard that, it could potentially be Matt Hedges. Unbeknownst to anything, that I've been doing behind the scenes, but he could be one of those guys that are coming in.
Zach, what do you think about Tyler Blackett? I wanted to hear your opinion on that.
Honestly, I kind of love that. I think I really liked him when he was with us for those um, that I don't even remember how
I
long
think
he
it
was
was
here,
like a year or two. Yeah.
year and a half or
Year,
so.
1 year.
Him
I
next
think
to Jeff Cameron, I just don't think was the right fit. I think like if you
It,
have a
it
more
was the bald
athletic,
kid.
yeah, if you have more athletic Miles Robinson next to him, like that may look a little bit better. Um, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But the other transfer talk that we had and the big rumor obviously was Weston McKennie. There's been a lot of info out there recently that Jose Mourinho is interested in him at Fenerbahce in Turkey. So, are we going up against the legend coach? I think, like I said on Twitter, it's got to be Pat Noonan over Jose Mourinho, right, guys?
I mean, come on. Come on,
What
Ryan.
are you what are you doing,
What are we
Weston?
doing here? Who are we
Yeah.
trying to make mad right now? Are we really, I mean, we've got the US men's national team coming after us. Do you really want like Premier League Chelsea fans? Do you want like Roma fans? Like all these people are gonna come after us because of you going, oh yeah, Mourinho, who's that?
I also don't think we'll ever get anybody from Turkey again. So I think once Weston goes there, he's out
Well, I mean, honestly, I think we got Obi from Turkey, so I will counter that point. Boop obviously was, I
there.
think, from Saudi originally, was in Turkey, but we did get him from a Saudi club.
Fair enough.
But
Fair enough. Fair enough.
we'll give him some slack on that one. But guys, we have two big games this week, like we mentioned. So DC United is going to be on Wednesday. That's at DC United. I am still scarred from last year and going to that game. We just got absolutely blasted in that one, but we tied 0-0 back in March. They will be without Benteke, their big guy up top who was actually named to the All-Star team this year. So he's on I believe, card accumulation. He had a red card, but it was 2 yellows. Anyway, he's going to be out. So that's the important thing. With the back line that we have, that is the most important thing to tell you.
Yeah, I think with this DC team, you're looking at their team as well. The injury report last week seems like they have a lot of injuries as well. So they're struggling probably just as much as we are as far as the depth piece. They don't have a win in their last 5 games. A lot of losses, a lot of draws. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of DC United team we get. Obviously, can't underestimate them. Can't do anything like that. But the last time we played them, our offense has changed a lot. But so is our defense. So we'll see what happens.
DC is always such a silly team to play. It's either a blowout either way, or it's a really close draw. Or I feel like it's never been like an actual like 2-1, 1-0 type match. It's always like I think we last year was 5-1 in the playoffs or whatever. It may have been 2 years ago, but
2 years ago, the decision day game.
decision day, yeah, that game just lives in my head rent free. And then the one that you went to, because I vividly remember you going down to the what's the little
The wharf there.
wharf, yeah, and you just like commenting on it, and then you just get into the match, and then not a fun game to watch. So honestly,
Yeah.
it's going to be an interesting match. I think honestly, I'm very happy where we are right now. Honestly, I think our attack is going to do very well against their defense. And then considering how we did against Dallas, I think with how we have our back line right now, I feel comfortable enough that we can pull off a win.
Yeah, I mean that, like we mentioned earlier, gives them confidence that even though it's not our main guys, like we can still win with what we have. I still, like to your point, I think we go with the similar back line. I don't think a lot changes. We do have Corey Baird possibly coming off the bench. I don't think he'll obviously start, but just to have better options up top, or versatility, if you want to call it that as well, with where you can put some of the guys in different positions, but just honestly to have a deeper bench, because it had been just kind of shredded with injury and card accumulation. We get Wobodo back for this game, which will be huge. My score prediction, we're going to go in and win 2-0.
Score prediction for me. We'll go. I'll just go a measly. We'll go 1-0.
I can't copy either you, so I got to go 3-0. I'm still thinking we're going to get a clean sheet, some way,
That's
shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, so DC's sitting at 13th in the East right now. You're right. For whatever reason, every time like we come up against them though, like I'm always like slightly worried. I don't know, is the way that we play them or what. There's a weird connection with DC. Yamil Assad played there, Junior Moreno played there, Lucho played there. There's kind of a really interesting connection with their team. Steven Jimenez is from DC area. So that is a little side note there, but yeah, I don't know. I really think that we have a good shot, like you guys are mentioning though. And it honestly is interesting to see, we mentioned it a lot last year, how Pat handles Wednesday night game and then real quickly back home, against Inter Miami. Does he weigh more on the Inter Miami game because of the ramifications in the Shield race? Does he say, hey, we're traveling, it's going to be a quick turnaround? Do we rotate even more than what we've seen for Wednesdays and then going into Saturdays? What is your thoughts on that, Sam, as we look into the Inter Miami game?
Yeah, I think Pat historically, the stats usually show that he does very well when it comes to those Wednesday games. Those midweek games he plans for very well. However, this past Saturday we saw it kind of the opposite effect. And so I'm wondering, what's going to happen there. But I think or I guess that the Saturday before, when we had the Wednesday Saturday against the Revs, I think Pat he'll figure it out. Obviously, there's going to be some rotation in the squad, I would assume, on that Saturday, but I fully expect us to get a similar squad like we did this past Saturday for Wednesday.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. I think definitely Kubo's going to get a lot of rest, in my opinion, considering we're getting Obi back. I think he's going to be a huge piece to our Saturday match for sure, just due to the heavy rotation. Um, Also, the um, striker situation, right? Bupenza is going to be back, so there could be a lot more fluctuation up top as well.
He's not giving me any confidence to start. Let's be honest. Let's
as
let's
as you
just say what
said,
everyone else is thinking. I mean, there's no way that guy is starting.
no, I wasn't gonna say he was gonna start, but he's definitely probably gonna get some sort of minutes.
Yeah,
I just you don't from Pat's standpoint, you don't want to look bad not giving him minutes before transfer window, right? Like
fair.
if they're trying to sell him off or whatever, you got to give him some playing time to kind of show himself, right? So I don't know. It's an interesting situation that we have, but I think all things considered, going into that Saturday match, I think it's going to be a very close one. It's going to be a tight
Yeah,
game.
I didn't give Inter Miami enough credit. I mean, just from the last several games they've won without Messi, without Suarez. They've had some younger guys that have played meaningful minutes. They might have lucked out with the timing of things and how they've won, but they've won, ultimately, and that's where we're at right now. If we win, I mean, that takes us just above them, possibly depending on what happens on Wednesday. It's a crucial moment, and when we meet them, especially without Messi there, without Suarez there. On our side of things, I think if we really look at Miles Robinson, what happens tonight weighs a lot on if we see Miles back on Saturday. I think if we lose and he comes back, I probably see him coming off the bench. I don't see him starting, but he hasn't played a single minute in Copa America. So why not throw him out there if he's potentially back for Saturday? That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think with this Miami team, they deserve all the credit. The past 3 games, they won 3 straight. However, all 3 have been 2-1 victories, right? So very close games. It's not like they're blowing anybody else out, but they're winning just enough. So with that, my score prediction for this game, I'm gonna go 2-1 FC Cincinnati.
I think the top two in the leaderboard, I think it's going to come to a draw. I'm thinking a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I'm thinking 1-1 as well. I would love to see us win at home. We need to continue, like we've said multiple times, just be able to win at home. But I think they're going to be gassed just based on the situation that we have. Um, Real quickly, I don't know if you guys know, does Miami play on Wednesday as well? Do you guys know that?
They do, yes.
Okay, so good. I mean, and they are also away on Wednesday, so that does help us. They play Charlotte on turf, then they come and play us on Saturday. I hate the games where
Charlotte, I believe Charlotte right now has one of the best defenses in the MLS. I think they may
yeah,
lead the league in goals allowed.
we'll see what happens then and how that affects the Saturday game. So both teams are in a similar situation. But yeah, I really hope we play them well. I'm hoping that we get Zach and I think had mentioned 4 points. Sam's going with 6 this week. That would be sweet to take us to the top of the shield. It's getting tight, guys. I mean, if we really look at the numbers and where everyone's at, it's honestly getting really, really close up top for both East and West. I know LAFC is on a tear right now. LA Galaxy is, both of them with 40 points. But we're continuing to win and we're on a really good pace, even with the guys that we have. Any final thoughts that you guys want to say, and then I'll give you our trivia answer.
No, I just think it's either Pat rotates on Wednesday or he rotates on Saturday. I think it'll all depend on 2 things. Uh, what happens with this U.S. men's national team game and what happens with Miami. Because if Miami loses on Wednesday, you go for it on Saturday.
That's very fair. And it's also not going to be a scorcher on Saturday. I don't know if that plays into in anything as much, but Wednesday though, I don't know where DC or how their weather's looking out, but hey, you got to look at it. Let's be honest. I mean, in this
It's true.
in 90 plus degree weather playing soccer, it's not, especially 2 games during the week. I mean, it's tough. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be fun.
I wanted, and it's funny you reminded me that, and especially with like what you mentioned about Kubo's minutes, I think you might see him play right wing back in one of these games. If Obi comes back into the middle, we have probably Assad one game and we have Kubo in the other one. That's kind of my take on that. You might see Kubo and Orellano switching sides. I think they did that at one point this year. Maybe it was at St. Louis game. I think they might have done that. So that'll be something to look out for as well. But I will give you our trivia answer here. So the question again was, who holds the record for most goals in their first season with FC Cincinnati? Right now, Orellano has 5 goals. Sam, I think you had locked in Lucho as being that player. Zach, you locked in
Yep.
Brenner. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So it was actually Brenner. Good job, Zach. 2020 season, Brenner had 8 goals, which was the most in anyone's first season. Lucho had 7, Sam, that same year. Alan Cruz had 7 in 2019. Bupenza had 6 last year. Orellano, you know, a little over halfway through the season has 5. He could get up to 10, I think, and would set the record for most in their first season.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I think if they keep playing him on the wing, he's going to keep cutting in and slicing, dicing guys. I'm super excited to see him play up a little bit more.
As a right wing back, right? Like, I don't think he's going to hit that record playing left wing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Echo everything you guys are saying. Hopefully next week we'll have 2 wins, and we'll see you then.